In this video, I'm going to talk about what it's like to work a regular job while having ADHD. And what I mean by a regular job is someone like me who doesn't own their own business or doesn't freelance but works at one place for 40 hours a week. Also, yes, there are many different types of jobs, and what I'll be describing may not fit every job, but these are some of the things I tend to experience while working a 40-hour per week, full-time, non-remote job. One of the struggles that I face, especially at work, is boredom. Now, if you have ADHD, then you know that boredom is actually painful. Once you've been at a job for some time, maybe it's a few months or even a few years, things tend to become easier as you get into a routine. Eventually, this could lead to boredom. Now, I've worked for a local government, I've worked in retail, I've worked in law enforcement, sanitation, environmental programming, and more. And one common thing that I've always faced is boredom. For jobs that require a specific set of tasks that have to be done in any given day, I do those tasks very quickly and I'm not left with much to do by the end of the day. When I bring this up to my supervisors or management, they give me some BS or unimportant work to do because I have to be there for a full 8 hours and I wind up just hating it. For jobs that don't necessarily have a specific set of tasks to complete every day and where I have a little more autonomy, such as when I was working as a park ranger, I would usually do some work throughout the day and then have to come up with something to fill the rest of my day. This included patrolling around parks or talking to random people. Well, this really just became boring after a while, and I always felt trapped or like I was being contained. The idea that I had to be there all day, even though there really wasn't much to do, really stressed me out. I felt like I was being useless and might as well just go home. And that's exactly what I did. I would use my vacation time to leave early out of boredom and never actually really even go on vacation. This got so bad that I wound up just quitting some of these jobs. Not because I didn't like what I was doing, but because I wasn't learning, growing, or doing any meaningful work, and I was just bored. Another thing that's just awful about having ADHD and working a full-time job is having to do work that just doesn't make sense. I tend to try to work as efficiently as possible, and that usually means doing things a certain way or creating certain habits that allow me to do my work either the quickest or the most efficiently. Well, with certain jobs, this would allow me to raise certain concerns about how things were being done to my supervisors. More often than not, I would see some variation of this is how we do things here. Now, I don't know about you, but this bothered me so much. My ADHD would just fixate on these things, and I would just think about how stupid it was that I had to do these things in a certain way. Eventually, this would just lead me to not want to do the work at all and basically have no motivation. I would also sometimes run into work-related tasks that were just very repetitive in nature. Now, I was okay with this when I first started a job because it would still be new and I was still learning. But after even as short as a few weeks, I would get so annoyed and uninterested in the work that I was doing that it would begin to actually stress me out. The idea that I had to consistently do things that I wasn't interested in almost felt like mental torture. I would lose all excitement, and this would either lead me to just quit or start looking for a new job. Something else that I've noticed that bothers me about working a regular job is having to sit still. Now, this could come from a specific type of job or any jobs where there were meetings or trainings that required me to sit still for a long time and pay attention. I remember when I was a park ranger, there were always these mandatory trainings. Some were interesting, but actually most of them were incredibly boring, and I would basically just forget everything that was being taught. I felt like most of the time they were going on for way too long, and I wanted to just come up with any excuse to leave. Having ADHD means that I find it difficult to intensely focus on things that I wasn't very interested in. I also find it very difficult to just sit and not either fidget or get up and move around. These types of jobs or job-related tasks made me feel trapped and very uncomfortable. And to neurotypical people, fidgeting, not paying attention, or getting up a lot can come off as rude or seem like I don't care, but I really just couldn't help it. These types of environments just really drive me crazy and eventually lead me to just leaving a job. An issue that I would run into a lot would be the lack of career progression at a certain job. Once I got a new job, within a year or even as little as a few months, I would get really good at a job and learn a whole lot. If we would compare this to a video game, I would max out my job character very quickly. Now, I wouldn't necessarily learn everything, but I would learn learn way more than enough to do my job extremely well. And what was left to learn wouldn't necessarily make a difference in my performance or how I was perceived by my supervisors. I would hyper-focus and sometimes become obsessed with learning and becoming the best employee that I could possibly be. I would outwork my coworkers and really focus on doing a great job. However, there wouldn't be an option to advance to a higher pay or a different job while still maintaining a lot of the things that I liked about that original job. Sure, some jobs had growth opportunities, but a lot of those opportunities took away everything that I liked about the original job and replaced it with things that I didn't like. These things would be supervising other people or spending my entire day in an office. There would be no way to continue to do the things that I enjoy doing while getting paid more or grow more as an employee. This would also lead me to becoming a job hopper, and I would leave for completely different jobs where I hoped that the learning would never stop, but eventually the cycle would just start over again. What all of this really taught me is that I need to either be learning or growing constantly in a career, or that I would just eventually have to start my own business. And I've been leaning more towards that second option more recently. So those are some of the things that I constantly run into while working a full-time job. If you've experienced any of these, leave a comment below. And if you would like to see more videos like this about ADHD, please go ahead and subscribe.